Hi everyone, thanks for making the left turn and welcome back to the Jack's Left channel. It's Saturday, April 26th, 2014, a beautiful warm spring afternoon here at J.P. Small Ballpark here in the Durkeeville neighborhood of Jacksonville. Durkeeville is a historic neighborhood here in Jacksonville. It was founded in 1930s. So we're going to talk about the history of Durkeeville, the J.P. Small Ballpark, and a lot of the different things have happened in Jacksonville relating to this unique ballpark here in a very historic neighborhood. So Durkeeville is named after a man named Joseph H. Durkee, who was a Union officer in the Civil War, and he moved here to Jacksonville, and he was a politician, he was in business, and the neighborhood developed in the early 20th century. There was actually a streetcar that would run up and down, streetcars that would run up and down Myrtle Avenue. Right now we're here at Myrtle Avenue and 7th Street, if that gives you an idea of where we are. So the unique thing about this area is the history. Now, this area was developed as a neighborhood for African Americans, and this spot is the location of the first ballpark, which was called Barrs Field. Barrs Field was constructed in 1911, and it was known around here as the Myrtle Avenue Ballpark. And there was spring training that would happen in the 1920s. If you remember, the Dodgers weren't always in Los Angeles. They were located in the early days in American history in Brooklyn. And so the Brooklyn Dodgers in the early 1920s would do spring training, as would the various other teams. Here on the field, before the stadium was constructed, the city bought the land in 1926. And Barrs Field, and what was called the Myrtle Avenue Ballpark, was then started to be called Durkee Field. And so it became Durkee Field in 1926. The city formalized the purchase of the land in the early 1930s, paid $348,000 for it, and then constructed this ballpark, this grandstand that you'll see more of later in the program. And so not only was there spring training that would happen here from some of the major baseball teams, but also there were African American leagues that would play here as well. There were local teams, the Jacks Redcaps, and so a lot was happening in the 1930s. Also, not far from here was the first public housing project here in Jacksonville, the Durkeeville Public Housing Project. So it was not that far from the stadium. People could walk from the newly constructed stadium to their homes, right here off of Myrtle Avenue and 7th. Then, in the 1940s, there was a bit of an issue because, as you know in American history, Jackie Robinson was the first African-American Major League Baseball player that was part of, joined the Brooklyn Dodgers. Well, there was spring training, of course, that was going on, but there was a controversy. And so in 1946, Jacksonville got a write-up in the New York Times, but it wasn't good news. Unfortunately, there were teams that had to pull out of playing here in Jacksonville because this facility was segregated. It was a segregated facility, and so rather than leave teammates that were African American, leave them in a hotel room somewhere while the rest of the team would play, the teams chose not to come here to Jacksonville to play. And so that resulted in the cancellation of a ball game between the Jersey City Giants and the Montreal Royals. And so that was mentioned in the New York Times, and that was something that people had to think about. And these were changing times in the late 1940s and the early 1950s. Well, there was a man named Sam Wolfson. For those of you who've lived in Jacksonville for a long time, maybe you remember Wolfson Park. Well, one of the first Southern minor league baseball teams to be integrated was the Jacksonville Braves, and they were headquartered in the newly built Wolfson Park that was constructed not far from where the Everbank Field and the ballpark, the existing ballpark that we have downtown, the Jacksonville baseball grounds. So that park was constructed in the 1950s. And so, interestingly enough, Hank Aaron would play in the Jacksonville Braves. So, and they were headquartered, of course, and played games over at Wolfson Park. And then later, of course, then would come the Jacksonville Suns. I remember a game at Wolfson Park, a park much like this one, but on a larger scale towards downtown. In the early 80s, with my stepmother, I was able to attend a Suns game, and that was real fun. And so then there was a decision at one point, because there was so much maintenance that was required for such an old structure as this one, that there was talk about tearing it down in the early 80s. But ultimately, there was the ballpark, which was known as Durkeeville, was changed then to be the J.P. Small Stadium, which is named after James P. Small, who was a coach, a baseball coach, or was a baseball coach, for a long time at Stanton High School. So in 1980, the stadium was rededicated, and then renovations came later. And back last year, in the summer of 2013, this ballpark got onto the National Historic Registry, the National Registry of Historic Places. So it's just a reminder for us of all the unique things that each of Jacksonville's historic neighborhoods has. And over the years, different things happen. People move, things change, politics change, society changes, technologies advance. But we have something to remember, something to be proud of here in this unique neighborhood. And so in the coming months, for the rest of the year, I'll be going out into the different neighborhoods of Jacksonville, as well as also filming downtown. And I'm really looking forward to really sparking something in One Spark 2015. So please stay tuned to the Jack's Left channel. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to roll it. Pictures and film of this beautiful stadium, this beautiful ballpark in this historic neighborhood. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. Let's roll it. you.